Hi, and welcome to the Crit Hit Wild podcast, where we cover all things Marvel Crisis Protocol, and we do a new character every week. This week, we are doing Doc Ock, Sinister Scientist, and I'm your host, Fred.
I'm Brad.
And I'm Steven.
And Brandon may join us later. It depends on if he can get home soon enough. But it is nice to talk to you guys. How have you two been doing? How have you been doing there, Brad?
Pretty good.
Pretty good, yeah. All right, how are you doing, Steven?
I'm doing excellent. Told you just about everything that was happening on the precast, so here we go.
All right. Well, I just got back from being a nerd at the Ohio Renaissance Fair, where myself and my significant other had a ton of fun. Highly recommend if you are a nerd who likes to dress up and watch people joust. It was
Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
No, you go ahead. You go ahead.
Wayne. I was going to say it's near Waynesville, Ohio, near the Dayton area, in case people are interested.
Yeah, and they have a whole. It's a dedicated area that is. I think they don't run year round, but it is built specifically to be a Ren Fair area. And,
yeah, it's not chintzy like the other Ren fairs people go to in other states.
Right. Yeah, it's a ton of fun. Everyone should go. But instead of talking about how I'm a nerd in this way, let's talk about how we're all nerds in a different way with Marvel Crisis Protocol. I don't think there's any news that we have to discuss. That nothing has come out since our last record. I should state that we will be dry next week. We'll have no podcast next week because the person who does our tech, Brad, will be away at Second Wind. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Yeah. Well, break a leg out there, Brad. I wish you luck. Go beat some face in Chicago.
I hope he doesn't break a leg.
If the current pattern holds, I'll win it.
Don't go in with that attitude.
That's current
begging
pattern.
for.
You have just failed.
Well, speaking of the current pattern, let's talk about games that we've played recently. Brad, I know that you've played some games recently that you want to discuss.
Yes, I did. So, Thursday I played A Song of Ice and Fire. That's not really important. But yesterday I went to a tournament for A Song of Ice and Fire. So maybe it was important.
Yeah.
So I went, it's not the shop I normally play at. From our shop, there was Buck, who works there, our friend Borka, and me. And then there were three other players who showed up for the 3-round tournament. Normally, apparently, they have a bunch more people, but no one could make it this time. So I played 3 rounds of Song of Ice and Fire and tabled my opponent every round and won the tournament.
Oh my goodness. What faction were you playing?
I was playing Greyjoys. My first game was against Baratheons. My second game was against Lannisters. Now, he was a new player who only had the starter box and 1 extra unit. So I've played against all that stuff before and knew what to expect. In the third round, I played Borka. This was a good game, but I don't know. I had enough recursion, and he had a couple bad rolls at the right time that I was able to win it.
Well, congratulations. Was Borka playing Boltons?
Oh, no,
I know
he's
been swapping.
He was also playing Lannisters.
Okay.
Sorry.
Okay. So you beat 2 Lannisters in this 3-round tournament.
Yeah.
I guess that's pretty common for that game because Lannister is one of the two factions in the starter box.
The 2-player starter box, yeah.
The
Everyone,
two-player
yeah, every faction has its own starter, but the 2-player is Lannisters versus Starks.
Right. Yeah. I'm sorry that I couldn't make it, but I
think you have more fun, Fred.
Yeah, I think you're right.
We were also Ren Fairing, just in a different way.
Yeah, I know.
Like I won some knights. I now have hedge knights, so they can go jousting.
Well, I'm happy you won. Congratulations. Was anyone there playing Stark? Like, did you not
Nobody
play?
was playing Stark. The ones I didn't play were playing Baratheons, Targaryens. Oh, and I didn't play myself. So Baratheons and Targaryens were the other two players.
So there were 2 Baratheons and 2 Lannisters?
Yes, and the first round, the Lannister players played each other, and the last round, the Baratheon players played each other.
Oh, boy.
Yeah.
I guess that this is a smallish tournament.
Yeah.
Well, it sounds like fun. I'll join you eventually in another month.
They do plan on holding these monthly, and they're gonna try to set it on one particular weekend. So I asked them not to do it the third weekend.
Okay, yeah.
Wonder why.
Yeah, so I look forward to going to more. It was fun.
Okay then. Steven, do you have any games that you've played recently that you want to discuss?
Yeah, on Thursday I played one game against Robbie, and he was trying out his Winter Guard again. So I decided to go with my Mystic Cabal, just to, do something different and not so terrible and horrible like my Midnight Suns. So, but we ended up playing on a 20-point scenario, which was Scoundrels, and also we were playing Legacy Virus. So 20 or 19 was a choice, and we went with 20. He was playing Red Guardian, Dark Star, and the Black Widow from the original core set.
Right.
And Crimson Dynamo, of course. And then he did Amazing Spider-Man.
Amazing Spider-Man.
Yeah, as a 5-point splash. And I'm trying to remember who his third character, his last character was, and I'm kind of blanking out on it, to tell you the truth.
Okay.
But I ended up running original Red Skull, Enchantress, Mr. Sinister, Bullseye. Bullseye. Zemo, and Hood.
To clarify, you mean the original core box Zemo?
Core box
right?
Zemo, 3-point Zemo, yeah.
3-point Zemo.
You
Yeah.
can't just say core box.
Yeah, you're right. I can't. I said.
You said original, Fred, but
I did say original core box.
Core box. Yeah.
So yeah, we threw down a little bit, and things got fun. But honestly, to tell you the truth, Mr. Sinister and Enchantress ruled this game because, Winter Guard has that thing against pushes, but I'm not pushing you. I'm advancing you off points, basically.
Right. You get past their thing.
And Mr. Sinister brought in Arnim Zola.
Oh boy! Wait, Arnim Zola.
Yeah.
Was that the only 3 that you still had in your roster?
No. But
Why did you bring Arnim Zola?
because he's actually really great with Red Skull.
Okay. Yeah, because he gets extra power. Arnim Zola needs lots of power. He's power hungry.
Yeah, but attacking is what he wants to do, and you get that one gainer, it does damage, he gains power, and then if he rolls a crit in it, that's 3 power right there.
Yeah, true. Okay.
So go to town. Plus, he gives out rerolls to other people within range of him.
Yeah, that's what he wants the power for.
Yeah.
And that's his shtick. And it's nice, but I've always found it just he never has enough power to do it. But in a Red Skull 1 list, I guess that he could do that.
And then the other thing about it was, of course, Mr. Sinister and Enchantress have beams, which is really good in Red Skull. Hood has a rapid fire, which is really good in Red Skull. So
Yeah.
it's just it was a close, tight game. I mean, it wasn't without its moments where it's like, oh, geez, am I going to win? But in the end, the bad guys prevailed. So
Okay, so Robbie brought Amazing Spider-Man. Why? what was going on there?
He likes the character. He's
Okay,
trying
okay.
to make these characters work in Winter Guard, and I give him credit for it. I mean, but I just, even with their updates, I just don't think they have enough yet to do what they need to do. Is what it
You
comes down
mean
to.
Winter Guard as a whole, or the character Amazing Spider-Man with the
Winter Guard as a whole.
Okay. Yeah.
You don't run Winter Guard and say, "Oh, this character is fantastic in this affiliation," right?
Mhm.
It's not something that you would deem to say. He's doing his due diligence and he's putting in his reps, because this is about the time I remember when I was trying to make Defenders, and then Midnight Suns came along and make Defenders and Midnight Suns work before Immortal Hulk showed up on the scene, right?
Yeah, yeah.
So it's that same thing. Okay. Defenders did not have a bad roster. It's just that their leader hampered them at that point in time, which was Doctor Strange. We didn't have the Daredevil.
Right.
Okay. Midnight Suns, Blade, not quite as good as Doctor Strange, in my opinion. Okay. But his leadership was fantastic. Whereas Doctor Strange had the opposite problem. His leader was situational, right? So,
Yeah.
But combining those two to make something work, it just wasn't quite there. And then Immortal Hulk came along, and then Daredevil came along, and everything's good now.
Right. Well, I agree. The how I want the Winter Guard to work as a faction, because I want all the factions to be at least viable. And how do you feel about the addition of like 2-Point Black Widow into that roster, whether or not it makes them a more viable faction or not?
Well, 2-Point Black Widow was going to be one of the twos you put in there anyway, right? And she's a good
It was
choice for
already
yeah, she's a good choice for the twos. So
yeah,
it was either her, Wong, or Bullseye, right? Or Toad. I mean, take your choice. But now that she's an affiliated too, she's going to be the automatic choice, is what I'm saying.
yeah. Oh,
All right.
100%. I think she makes the table in almost every game that the Winter Guard play from now on.
Right. It's the other characters that got added to Winter Guard that are a little bit suspect, because
Omega Red. Yeah.
He is another short mover with a medium base, and they already had 2 of those in Crimson Dynamo and Ursa Major.
And Crimson Dynamo has his, like, he can jump. He can go I forget the distance, but he can be
Range
placed,
2.
right? Range 2.
Yeah.
Okay.
Range 2. But you're draining your power, right? So I mean, it's just one of those things that I don't think Omega Red was a good pick per se.
Right. I agree. I think that Crimson Dynamo already does what Omega Red does better.
Honestly, to tell you the truth, I'm surprised, since they went with Russian people, because Brad, correct me if I'm wrong. Has Omega Red worked with Winter Guard or no?
I think in a story he worked with them, but he wasn't on the team.
Right. But if they're going to make a Russian faction, right, and call it Winter Guard, I don't understand why they didn't put Colossus and Magic in there too. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
To kind of flesh it out. Now, I know canonically in the comics that might be wrong. Okay, but
You're right. They never
It's-
worked together.
It's only as wrong as Omega Red is.
Right.
Right, exactly. So, I mean, they can take orders because, they all speak Russian, right? So, um, Bucky, obviously, but he was a rogue agent anyway, right?
Yeah, he was
So,
already in
Well,
there.
It's
Like-
the new Bucky, though, right?
no, it's the old one.
No, it's
Is
the
it
old
the
one.
old one? Oh, that's better than I thought. For
Mhm.
some reason, I thought it was the new Bucky.
No, it's the old one. So,
Is that right?
Well,
on,
they also.
is that right on Cerebro, by the way?
Oh, let me check. I haven't looked, but I'll check real quick. But I just feel like I don't know. The old one is not currently listed as a member of the Winter Guard, and the new one is on
Okay.
Cerebro.
let me check this out.
Yeah,
though,
let's double
just to-
check because we may be wrong.
I
was
thought
under
it
the
was
impression-
new one.
It might be. I was under the impression that it was the old one. This is the problem with the name because the difference is Winter Soldier and Winter Soldier, comma operative, and those are not far enough apart to be.
All right, I got it right here. So, Winter Soldier Operative is the correct one. Yes, that's
Okay.
correct.
Oh, okay, okay.
Great.
So
okay.
I was incorrect.
So was I. Yeah.
I
All right.
apologize.
Well, then that makes more sense than the original Winter Soldier, because the
didn't-
original Winter
didn't-
Soldier was already in there.
Yeah, and they didn't add an old model. They just
hmm
added the new one, which they do all the time.
Right. But they did it while also adding 2 old models.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, they needed.
Well,
more
it's
models.
kind of sad that you can't
Yeah,
use
they did.
Soldat activated with that Winter Guard. So
Oh no, that would be cool.
yeah,
Yeah, because
so-
it would be amazing. Because that card is great.
but it's just the one thing Winter Guard does really really well is they counter Hydra really really well.
Okay, is that what they do?
At the beginning of the turn, they remove a condition.
Oh yeah, they do. They absolutely do counter Hydra.
Mm-hmm. So,
Yeah.
and
Well,
then they have a chance
counter the
not to be
Hydra.
pushed.
They counter the bad Hydra leader.
True.
I mean, Hydra does a lot of condition play though, not just with Baron Strucker.
Any faction that puts a condition on you, they counter pretty well. So
Yeah.
and that's Strucker's Hydra and Strange Defenders and Amazing Spider-Man Web Warriors, if I'm correct.
Well, it sounded like a fun game. And I applaud Robbie for playing characters that he likes instead of just play characters that go great together.
Well, what's going to happen is he's going to play this for a year and a half, 2 years, and then something's going to come out that's Winter Guard specific, and he's already going to have practice with this roster.
And it'll be real nice. He'll be real.
Things will be good,
Yeah.
Just like I was with Defenders Midnight Suns before all the change that came out. So
In,
Right. Before they made them better.
in two
Mhm.
different games, I was consistently playing something bad until it got good, and then I was really good with it.
exactly.
Yeah,
So
it happened with X-Men and MCP, and it happened with Cooks in Guild Ball.
Yeah, it did. Yeah, it did.
for all of it,
Do you
it is.
do you
I-
mean
I-
butchers? Do you mean
No,
butchers?
I mean Cooks. Butchers were fine.
Okay.
When Cooks originally came out, they were terrible, but I kept playing them, and then in the next errata, they got changed and were good. And
I must have only played them.
when they
after
were
that
good,
errata.
yeah,
Yeah, because I don't remember them ever being bad.
yeah, they were bad when they came out.
Okay.
Yeah, but it's one of those things that, there's going to be another passive character updates at some point in the future. We know this. So I expect Dark Star and Ursa Major to get touched a little bit, if anything.
Yeah. Yeah. I think they probably both needed a little, just a smidge.
Hmm.
Well, that's all they
So,
do. They
anyway.
do smidges. But that's fine. Like they did a smidge for Wolverine, and Wolverine is now completely playable.
Yep.
I forget what they did to Wolverine.
Oh, the big
One
I've
thing
more
not
health
thought
on
is
about
this.
it since we talked about it.
the big thing is
One
they
more
made
health on
his
this injured side.
yeah, and they made his charge one cheaper. That's the big one.
Okay. All
It
right.
went from
Well,
the worst charge in the game to the best charge in the game.
okay. Are you gonna play Wolverine? Have you put him in any of your X-Men rosters?
Yes.
Okay. Well, never mind. He is fixed then.
But don't go for the trap.
What's the trap?
What is the trap?
Fastball special.
I don't think that's a trap anymore.
I can play around it all day. It's no big deal.
Listen, this is a character with multiple traps, and I don't think that's the worst one. I think that there's a card playing him with Jean Grey is the trap.
And playing Jean, yeah.
Yeah.
The card
Well,
Jean.
I just say it's a trap because you have to bring another character to do that tactic card when you can just do Weapon X program.
Oh, you take both, Steven. You take both.
Yeah. But still, I mean.
And then you use someone like Beast to throw a bunch of cars around until they finally use Brace, and then you just destroy them with the other two cards.
Oh, well. Anyway, we're speculating a lot here, so.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's move on. Is there anything else that we need to cover before we do the guy that we're here to do today? I don't think there is. Is there?
I have one thing for you guys, and it
yes, you do.
Does with Spider Foes, okay? So, we know that Spider Foes has a box coming out, right?
Yes.
That has Sandman, Vulture, Electro, and Shocker. So, that's all good. That's all great. I love it. However, in this affiliation box, considering what we have seen previously, what does every 4-pack affiliation box have in common?
A leader.
Correct. So who's the leader in Spider Foes?
In that set?
Uh-huh.
Vulture.
I was gonna say Electro.
It's Vulture.
Do you think it's Vulture?
I'm predicting Vulture also.
Okay. Do we know that it?
No, but based on the comics, he's the only one of them that is a leader.
Oh, okay.
Like he's led groups of villains before.
But that's what I'm predicting, that he will be a leader for the Spider Foes.
I mean, that would be fun. That's a third leader for the Spider Foes, right?
Correct.
I think that would be. Hey, so if you've only ever listened to this podcast, you wouldn't know that, right? Because we haven't covered the second leader. He's the person that we're here to cover today, actually.
Correct. Well, it's just one of those things, right? So.
Yes. Speaking of, was that the end of your segment? I didn't want to cut you off.
No. That's fine. I'm just, like I said, it's
Vulture.
It's Vulture. It's got to be a Vulture.
Speaking of the second leader for the Spider Foes, we are here to cover today Doc Ock, the Sinister Scientist, otherwise known as Otto Octavius. He has a defensive pool of 4 physical, 4 energy, and 3 mystic. He has 6 stamina on both sides of his card. He is threat 4, size 2, and he moves medium. Hey, Brad, why don't you cover his attacks?
Okay. I just before I go over these attacks, I knew Fred was gonna have me do the attacks because if you've been paying attention, Fred always picks me for the attacks. So the first attack
I
is physical, striking tentacles, rage 3, 5 dice, 0 cost. Uh, he gains power equal to damage dealt, and it has wild flurry of arms, and that makes each wild count as 2 successes. His second attack is an energy attack called Arm Lasers 2.0. It's a beam 4, 4 dice, 0 cost, and it has wild incinerate. And his last attack is a physical attack, Scientific Breakthrough, range 3, 7 dice, cost 4. If it deals damage after the attack is resolved, the target character gains bleed, poison, and shock.
All right. I'd like to cut in real quick just to say I do always pick you first because attacks are always first on the card, and I tend to go in the order of the people in the call. So if you would like me to switch that up, I may.
No,
I
it's
can.
fine, Fred. I just am very aware that I need to be ready to read the attacks because that's what I'm gonna do.
I mean, you're correct. Well, Steven,
Yes.
do you want to finish out the card?
Sure. So, Doc Ock, Sinister Scientist, is a leader. Leadership ability is Sinister 6, Affiliation Spider Foes. Once per turn, after an attack targeting an allied character is resolved, if that character is not dazed, it gains 1 power. Additionally, once per turn, when an allied character suffers damage from an enemy attack, after the attack is resolved, it may remove one of the following special conditions from itself: shock, slow, or incinerate. We have his first superpower, which is an active superpower. This is Ox Grasp, costs you 3 power. Choose an interactive terrain feature or enemy character, both size 3 or less and within 3, and throw it short. This superpower can be used only once per turn. He also has an innate power called Scientific Hubris. When this character rolls dice, after the effect is resolved, if the roll contained 1 or more crit results, this character will gain 1 power. And last but not least, he has the innate superpower of Wall Crawler.
And I believe that on this card, every single thing is the exact same on the front and the back. I do not think there is any difference. Not that I can see, at least.
No,
Uh,
health.
No, the health is the same.
Health
It's
is
6 and 6.
Okay.
Yeah,
Wow.
yeah. So,
Doc Ock looking up.
I think that one of us has actually played this person on the table, and that would be Steven. Steven, what are your thoughts on this guy? What's your takeaway here?
Goblin is going to be a sad person.
Yeah, I agree.
Goblin is going to be a sad person. I think it's situational, matchup dependent. Like, I would take Goblin on Scoundrels, right? Because you get cover, and Goblin has a chance to eliminate that cover by making them re-roll that cover roll. So, but other than that, I can't foresee any situation where I would take Goblin
Over this leadership.
over this Doc Ock. Yeah.
I mean,
Plus,
yeah.
that size 3 throw terrain or person from range 3, that's money. That's just money.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah.
I mean, my starting 3 in affiliation would be Lizard, Doc Ock, Rhino, and Venom. Okay.
And you'd just be the Chuck boys, just throwing stuff all over the place.
I mean, because the thing is, Lizard has trouble gaining power on his own, right?
But he's great at taking punches.
Exactly. So he's going to get the extra power. Rhino gets extra power anyway, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then Venom is going to be like cackling with glee when that happens. So
yeah.
So I mean, that's that's 15-point core right there, and they're all good. So
The problem is you can't play Venom with Doc Ock.
why is that?
Leadership. Because he was never in the Sinister Six.
Now you're gonna do that. Okay, all right.
All right. I want to talk about this affiliation before we move away. I think this affiliation rules. I think it's great.
Well,
like I think
all power gaining leaderships have been proven to be both good and popular because they're popular because they're good. But so gaining
But
power is good, very good.
You even gain the power if you don't take damage. That's the whole thing.
I gotta say,
You're right.
Yeah. Okay.
Now you
All
do
right.
get
I want to
the
talk
power.
about the second effect. I want to talk about the second
Okay.
effect here. Removing one of the conditions: shock, slow, or incinerate. Two of those are two of the worst conditions to have. Like having shock or incinerate is always rough, and being able to just toss it whenever you get damaged is such a nice little benefit. But slow, this is to turn off all webbed up. Because that's one of the strategies for web warriors, right? Is they all webbed up a bunch of people, and then they all go in on someone and beat them to death. Well, the first punch, suddenly you were no longer slowed.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's really solid. I think this and it doesn't cost you anything. All it costs you is you have to take damage, and then you will gain extra power. I really like this affiliation.
Yeah, it's. I think a lot of people are going to sleep on it out of the new core box, because they're going to be fascinated by the other leaderships. Maybe not Zemos, but you know what I mean.
Right.
And
This is the least flashy of the new leaderships, I think.
correct.
It's
But
probably
it's
the
also
best one.
It's probably the best one.
It's nothing that will make people who weren't already had the disposition to play Spider Foes play them. I don't think it's that good. But anyone who wanted to play Spider Foes is now very, very happy.
Yeah,
Oh,
I
yeah.
think what it does is it plays into the way that many of the Spider Foes like to play, which is soaking hits and surviving. Being big beefy boys. And it benefits you when that happens. When you take a
Fred,
hit.
when you play, do you like the big beefy boys?
I love my big beefy boys.
Because I know you play them some.
I did, and I will go back to
You haven't
playing
played them recently. You think you're going to go back and play some big beefy boys?
Yes, absolutely. Are you is there a trap that I'm walking into?
I'm just asking.
No, it's not. It's not Sinister or anything.
He has the Flurry of Arms special wild trigger on his striking tentacles, which the old one did. But this Dr. Ock is hitting with 5 dice instead of 4. I think the old one was 4.
Yes, that is correct.
I'm pretty sure it was. Yeah. And which is better and more likely to get that wild. Arm Lasers 2.0. It's a beam 4, which is good, and it can do wild incinerate. It's otherwise, I mean, any beam attack has value, especially an energy one. So, and in scientific breakthrough, it's a little steep at 4 cost, but you put bleed, poison, and shock. 3 really really bad conditions to have on, and just by doing damage, you don't have to get a trigger or anything. It just happens if you hurt them.
Yep.
There's nothing on this card that's bad, I think.
No, I'm kind of sad he lost it. I'm kind of glad he got his energy defense, but his mystic went down again. So I mean, 6 of one, half dozen another. So
yeah, that's true. I mean, a Mystic defense of 3 though is pretty standard. Like that's not a bad defense.
Right, right. But
It's not a good defense, but
this also gives you the contention point of, well, maybe I run Goblin into Convocation because when he gets flipped, he's got a 5 defense. So
yeah, I don't know.
just,
All right,
just
so
saying.
You've played this guy on the table. Who do you
Mhm.
think does more work on the table, Dr. Ock or Green Goblin?
All depends on scenario again. Doc Ock felt very static.
Which is the opposite of what Green Goblin is. Yeah.
Exactly. So, Doc Ock liked to stand at a point and control that point where he was at, by throwing people away, attacking them from range 3. But Goblin has that hit and run, so that's pretty valuable.
Absolutely.
Getting 2 attacks off. So I'm not throwing Goblin in the trash. I'm not trying to say that, right? But operationally, I think this leadership is more conducive to the spider foes, and putting Goblin in Doc Ock's leadership is totally viable.
I was about to say I think that Goblin works better under Doc Ock's leadership than he does under his own. Because Goblin's pretty power starved, and having that extra power would help him quite a bit.
The downside,
I don't know if he's power starved.
The downside to playing this Doc Ock and Green Goblin together is you can't play their team up card.
Right. That is an important piece.
Very, very good.
Yeah, the well-laid plans. So good it has a podcast named after it.
Does it though?
I mean, maybe. But that it is no longer playable with this Doc Ock. With this Dr. Otto Octavius.
Well,
because
just bring both Doc Ocks in your roster and play them how you need them.
That seems I don't know. That might be a good idea.
That seems fine to me.
I don't. Yeah, because you'll have the space, because there are a lot of spider foes that you're not going to bring. There are a couple.
Oh, please, bring them all.
You can't now, can you?
Yeah, you can.
Oh. Okay.
Are there more than 10?
No, there's 9 originally. This will make the 10th one.
This is the 10th one. Okay.
For currently. Now, when that new box comes out, yes.
Yeah,
now you'll have to start making choices. But for the current iteration, which is probably next 4 months or so, yeah, go hog wild.
There is one spider foe that I think would much rather be under the Green Goblin's leadership than this one, and that is Kraven. I think Kraven doesn't get a whole lot out of this one.
Oh, see, I thought Carnage was who you were gonna say.
Yeah, because
Carnage can't really take a hit. He needs the Alpha Strike.
I mean, Carnage has 5 physical defense and 7 health. I mean, if he takes a physical hit, then he can definitely do that. If he's up against people who are physical.
Yeah, if you want to scare people, play Carnage into Weapon X. They're not too happy about
that. No, they're
not. Brad's like, I agree with him.
Domino.
I can't argue.
You got Domino.
Oh, Domino has incendiary grenades. That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah, but somebody else is going to take care of her.
She's kind of hard to take care of, but
okay. No. But I'm saying you would not put Carnage up against her, is what I'm saying. So anyway,
well, we have to talk about the tactics card that is for this Otto Octavius, I should say, because this would actually work for both autos. It is called This Is Our Day. It is an unaffiliated reactive card. And during the power phase, if you have fewer victory points than your opponent, an allied Otto Octavius may play this card. This round, each time an allied character would drop an objective token, you may place it instead of your opponent, and you may place it within range 3 instead of the normal range 2. Additionally, each time an allied non-grunt character would be dazed or KO'd this round, each enemy character within range 2 of it suffers 1 damage.
You know when the perfect time to play this card is, Fred?
Tell me.
Right before you play well-laid plans.
I
Right.
mean, you're absolutely correct. This card goes great with the previous Dr. Octopus. But also, this card is fantastic. I think this card is great.
The one thing I don't like about it is that if you're behind in points,
Oh, yeah, there is a stipulation. Yeah, if you have fewer VPs than your opponent. And you cannot play this card if you're winning the game. That is a good point.
Well, that's probably good.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I got this is a good card. This card is very good. It lets you place the things, the objective tokens instead of your opponent, which is a great effect. And you get to place it at 3 instead of 2. So you just make it so your opponent will not get any of your objective tokens this round.
It's a good card for helping you stay in a game and not letting your opponent run away with it.
Right. Right, exactly. It's kind of the opposite of well-laid plans in a way. And I like it. I gotta say, okay. Is there anything? Have we talked enough about this guy? Is there anything else that you two want to discuss involving Dr. Octopus?
Get him out on the table, play him.
Yeah,
He's good.
right. Exactly. I think that it is time to give this guy a letter grade. And I'm thinking about the last time I did a Dr. Octopus where I gave him way too high of a grade than he deserved because it was my first episode.
It was. You were the guest on that episode, Fred.
I was the guest on that episode. That is true.
Wait. You were the guest on Doc Ock?
I was the guest host. I was not host. I was just a guy.
My first
Was
with you guys was Rhino, which I was a guest.
That's right.
So are all the guests Spider Foes associated?
We've had guests that were not for Spider Foes episodes.
But
yeah, but they didn't.
They didn't stick
around. You're right.
It's the Spider Foes. They bring in the people. Well, I'm gonna give this guy an A- because I like this card. I like everything on this card, and I like this affiliation bonus. I think he's good. What are you gonna give him, Steven? What are your thoughts?
I'm right with you. A-. Definitely.
A-.
I think this leadership is sneaky good.
Yeah, I do too. What about you, Brad? What are you gonna give this Doc Ock Sinister Scientist?
Well, I reserve A for models that I think are going to get splashed, and that's becoming rarer and rarer, so I might have to rethink that. But I'm going to go with B+.
Yeah, I think that you are correct. This is not a model that's going to get splashed very much. I don't think there's anything on here that makes me, from another faction, say, I want this guy.
But you would be wrong.
I mean, this guy's a 4-pointer.
I know.
There are better 4-pointers.
There might be
that
like
are splashable.
a list or whatever, but he's not all around good enough.
No, I agree with that.
In fact, I don't think you're going to take him in faction unless he's your leader, because the other one does basically the same thing for a point less.
I think you're right. But you will bring this one more often because this guy will more likely be your leader.
Yes. Until we get Vulture. Then we'll see.
Yeah, maybe.
Then we'll see.
Calling our shot right now.
Okay. All right. So That's a pretty good score. A minus, A minus, and a B plus. He's
It's a
up
C
there.
average.
It's
Oh, wow. I pray for your students, Brad. I do.
That's how I calculate their grades too.
Well, Brad, do you have any comic books that feature Doc Ock, Sinister Scientist?
Of course I do. I've got two
I'm sure
for.
there are not very many at all. I'm sure he doesn't exist anywhere.
Oh yeah, he barely shows up. Um, I went back and listened to the old Doc Ock episode to see what my recommendations were. I was really sad that I actually did Superior Spider-Man, because we'll probably get a Superior Spider-Man model, and now I can't talk about that as much. But the first one I have for you guys today is Spider-Man versus Doc Ock Year 1. It's by Zeb Wells, Care Andrews, Jose Villarrubia, Dave Sharp, and Chris Eliopoulos. It's quite a cast. This is the origin of Doc Ock. It starts with his childhood. He didn't have a very good one. And follows him through making the mechanical arms and trying to bond with Spider-Man over being an enhanced person. And then things go terribly wrong. And then he starts to hate Spider-Man and also respect him. So that's yeah, go ahead, Fred.
I think that this is one of the few characters that I've seen from multiple perspectives. Like I've seen multiple takes on Doc Ock, and he's a very interesting bad guy.
He is very interesting.
The ones that hit the hardest are the ones where he's very relatable, like his humanity and sympathetic. Yeah.
This is one of those where you see the life he led as a child and you feel bad for him, and then you see his first interaction with Spider-Man and how he just wants to be his friend, and the arms won't let him and attack Spider-Man.
Oh boy.
And it's a sad story.
Comics ain't easy, bro.
Yeah. So
I mean, that makes me want to read this one, because that's yeah.
It goes really well with one of the recommendations from the last Doc Ock episode, where Doc Ock goes and saves Peter's life from one of his clones trying to kill him.
One of Doc Ock's clones,
no,
or Peter Parker's clones?
Parker's clones.
Okay. All right, there was a dangling modifier there.
Yeah. Sorry. My second story is Amazing Spider-Man Annual #1. This is the first Spider-Man annual. It's by Stan Lee, Steve Ditko, and Sam Rosen. And Dr. Octopus recruits some of Spider-Man's rogues gallery and take on the moniker the Sinister Six. And Peter fights the Sinister Six for the first time. I wonder why I chose that story for today's episode. This is a classic Spider-Man comic that everyone should read. Almost everyone who loves Spider-Man will say to read the first, I think it's 2 years, like 24 or 25-ish issues, and then this annual, and like they nail Spider-Man right off the bat. He's exactly the character everyone knows and loves from issue 1.
Okay.
And so are the bad guys.
That's one of the things that makes the Spider-Man stuff so evergreen, is that it seems like they came at it with the personality completely like set, and it hasn't changed.
Yeah.
For a lot of the characters, not just for Spider-Man.
Yeah. I mean, Gwen Stacy changes a bunch, but That's mostly
I
her
mean, yeah,
neck.
you're right. Mostly her neck. Why? Why? What changes about her neck? Just it gets longer?
It breaks, Fred, and she dies.
Oh my goodness, I'm an idiot. I'm an
Fred
idiot.
doesn't. You don't know comics and you don't know sports. What is wrong with you?
Why am I here?
He definitely doesn't know
Oh,
sports. I can attest
I
to
do
that.
not.
yeah, yeah.
Well,
We've
we don't have Brandon on the pod today to ask about what faction this person would particularly shine in.
me.
Steven, do you have something?
Yes, I do.
What you got, bud?
All right. So, number one, he has a beam. So, Red Skull Cabal, the original Red Skull from the original core box. Sweet incinerates with getting power for costing 0 when you don't usually get power on this. To me, that's pretty good. And it's a beam 4. So you can get a lot of people under that.
Okay, that I see that. He
Um,
fits into your beam strategy with original Red Skull.
correct, yes. And you know, he's got a lot of utility to go along with it too. So, but my dark horse pick is actually in Doctor Strange Defenders.
Okay. Okay.
Because if you get the scientific breakthrough, okay, for 4 power, you spend another power for 5 power. If it deals damage, that's a bleed, poison, shock, and hex.
Ooh. That's a pile of conditions to put on your opponent.
And trust me, nobody likes a shock hex because I did it with Hawkeye all the time.
Then you play Kick 'em while they're down.
Correct.
Yep.
And you kill the Hulk.
Right. Oh man, this is built for kick 'em while you're down, while they're down.
Yeah.
This character. Oh wow.
Yeah, it's yeah, and with Goblin throwing out incinerates, that might be another good thing, right?
Yeah.
So,
Oh my goodness, you're right.
yeah, so a couple of dark horse picks. One because he's really good utility with Red Skull, and with Doctor Strange just throwing that hex out. Even the hex on the incinerates, right? Because you do it for the attack, not the next attack. For the next attack action, not the next attack, is what I'm saying.
Mm-hmm.
So that beam becomes whatever you want, okay? And if it does the wild, it'll put incinerate, and if it does damage, it'll put hex. So bad days.
Oof. Oof.
Bad
Nice.
days.
Nice. Okay. Well, I think the only thing that's left is for my non sequitur recommendation. So it's spooky season, so I'm doing movies that are either movies or video games that are either thrillers or horror. And I'm gonna do a movie from 2007 by one David Fincher that is also about a megalomaniacal bad guy who's threatening a city, and that is the film Zodiac. This is not David Fincher's most famous movie. You know, I mean, this is a guy who made Seven or Fight Club, but this is probably my favorite. It's very much more about the investigation and the process of investigating who this criminal is, who this madman is that's a threat to everyone in San Francisco. And it really creates this sense of tension and overall threat that is one of my it makes it one of my favorite of his movies, even though it's definitely not his most famous. So if you have the time, because I believe that it is almost a 3-hour long movie, go watch Zodiac, and you will have a good time. And that is it for our podcast today. Clearly, we're pretty up on Doc Ock, Sinister Scientist, and I think that everyone should go out and play him because he looks great. He looks like he's going to be really solid on the table.
Yeah, he's
So-
been working out, lifting size 3 now instead of size 2.
Yeah. So go out there and play with Doc Ock and have some fun. Goodbye, everybody.